You know that specific kind of frustration where you're holding this $1,000 device and it just feels dumb.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're driving or your hands are covered in flour and you ask Siri to do something that feels incredibly simple.
Mm.
You say, hey, send that email I was just writing to the guy I met last week, and you just get silence.
The digital stare, that's what we call it.
Exactly. The blank digital stare. Or, even worse, it pulls up a web search for guy met last week.
Right.
It's maddening because the context is right there on the phone. The email draft is open, the calendar invite exists, but the assistant acts like it just woke up from a coma.
We have a name for that in the industry. We call it the Siri ceiling.
The Siri ceiling.
It's that invisible barrier where the assistant stops being an assistant and just, becomes a hurdle.
Yeah.
And most of us just give up, sigh, and tap the screen manually.
But if this stack of documents we're looking at today is accurate, that ceiling is about to get smashed.
It looks that way.
We are diving into technical architecture diagrams, privacy analyses, and reports dated, just a few days ago? January 20th, 2026.
That's right.
And the headline isn't just a software update. It looks like a complete structural overhaul. The reports indicate Apple is effectively performing a brain transplant on Siri.
And they're using Google's Gemini technology to do it.
Which is a dramatic shift.
It is. And
Yeah.
I think the most important thing to clarify right away is that they aren't just, slapping a Google chatbot on top of Siri. This isn't a sticker on the bumper.
Right.
They're integrating Gemini technology as a foundation model for Apple Intelligence.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We need to decode what foundation model actually means for you, the person holding the iPhone.
Yeah.
We're going to break down the technical specs. We're going to figure out if this actually makes Siri smarter or just more chatty. And most importantly, we need to talk about privacy.
Always.
Because if Google tech is inside my iPhone's brain, does that mean Google is reading my texts?
That is the billion-dollar question. And the answer, according to these documents, is surprisingly complex. It's not a simple yes or no.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I think most people hear Apple uses Google Gemini, and they just assume, oh, cool, so Siri is just Google Assistant now.
Right.
But looking at this chart, this one titled The Paradigm Shift, that's not really what's happening, is it?
No, not at all. And making that distinction is critical. The documents describe two very different models for how AI is running on the device: the extension model and the foundation model.
Okay, let's start with the extension model. This is what we've seen with the ChatGPT integration recently, right?
Correct. Think of the extension model as a lifeline. Let's say you ask Siri, write me a haiku about a toaster.
Okay.
Siri's internal logic looks at that and realizes, I have no idea how to do that. That's creative writing. So it effectively calls a friend.
So Siri is just the middleman. It takes my request, hands it off to ChatGPT, waits for the answer, and then reads it back to me.
Precisely. It's outsourcing. Siri isn't doing the thinking. It's just the courier.
But what we're seeing now with Gemini is a foundation model. The source material even calls this the brain transplant.
Because it is. Gemini's technology is being embedded directly into the core inference engine of Apple Intelligence. It operates within Apple's system boundary.
So it's not calling a friend anymore?
No. Think of it like Siri went to grad school. It has internalized the knowledge. It raises the baseline IQ of the device itself.
So the thinking isn't being outsourced to some server somewhere.
Exactly. The thinking is happening inside the architecture.
But does that actually change the result for me? Or is it just a fancy way of saying it's faster?
It changes everything because of context. An outsourced model, the extension, usually can't see what's on your screen or know what app you just closed. It just answers a specific text prompt.
Right.
A foundation model sitting at the system level has awareness. It understands that send that email refers to the draft you were working on 5 minutes ago because it lives in the operating system.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the difference between asking a stranger on the phone for help versus asking someone who's standing in the room with you.
That's a perfect way to put it.
But here's where my skepticism kicks in. If this brain is so powerful and it's running on Google's underlying tech, how is it deciding what stays on my phone and what goes to the cloud?
Right.
I'm looking at a diagram here labeled the 3 routes of AI processing, and it looks like a complicated traffic flow chart.
It is, essentially. This is how the iPhone decides how to handle your data. It's a tiered system, and, understanding this is the only way to really trust the device.
Okay, let's walk through the tiers. I see 3 arrows. Let's start with route 1 on device.
This is the first line of defense. Route 1 is for the basics: timers, weather, launching apps, simple dictation.
Okay.
The key detail here is the data flow. Zero data leaves the phone. It is processed by the neural engine chip right in your hand.
Okay, so that's what we're used to. It's fast, private, but let's be honest, pretty limited.
Very limited.
Siri fails when things get complicated. That's where Root 2 comes in. Apple Intelligence plus PCC.
This is the sweet spot. This is where the brain transplant really shines. PCC stands for Private Cloud Compute.
Private Cloud Compute.
This route is for requests that are moderately complex.
Wow.
Summarizing a long PDF, editing a photo, understanding a complex calendar request involving multiple people, the kind of stuff your phone's chip might struggle with, but you don't want to send out to the open internet.
Okay, Private Cloud Compute. That sounds a lot like marketing speak for the cloud. Why is this different from just using Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud?
The distinction is in the hardware ownership and the software protocols. The documents specify that these PCC servers are built with Apple Silicon, so basically giant racks of Mac chips.
Ah.
They are owned and verified by Apple, but the most critical note on this chart is in bold: stateless processing.
Stateless. What does that mean in plain English?
It means the server has no memory. When your request hits the server, it is processed, the answer is sent back, and then the data is cryptographically destroyed.
So if I ask it to summarize a confidential legal document, that document exists on the server for, what, seconds?
Milliseconds,
Yeah.
usually. And then it effectively vanishes. According to Apple security research, data is never stored, and even Apple cannot access it. They've built a system where the server forgets you the moment it serves you.
That sounds great on paper. You know, this tape will self-destruct, but I'm always skeptical when a company says we can't access it.
And you should be. Healthy skepticism is good. But they've gone a step further here by allowing independent researchers to inspect the server images. It's a trust but verify model.
I see.
And crucially, there's a strict prohibition on no training. Your data, even while it's being processed in this private cloud, cannot be used to teach the AI how to be smarter. It's not being fed back into the collective brain.
Okay, so that's Root 2, the secure cloud, then we have Root 3, the extension. This looks like the Wild West.
In a way, it is. This is that legacy tier we talked about. This is ChatGPT, or potentially a full-blown Google Gemini Ultra model in the future. This is invoked only when Siri is completely stumped or needs creative writing help that exceeds its internal model.
And I see a barrier on the diagram here. It requires explicit user permission.
Right. You know that pop-up you see? Do you want to ask ChatGPT?
Yeah.
That is the gatekeeper. That is the system telling you, hey, I'm about to leave the safe zone. The butler cannot help you here. We are going outside to ask the neighbor. Are you cool with that?
So we have local, we have private cloud, and we have the external extension. This feels like the perfect pivot point to the elephant in the room.
I think so.
If Apple is using Gemini, which is a Google product, inside that private cloud is Google peeking.
This is where the privacy deep dive section of our source material gets really interesting. There's a philosophical divergence here that they label as the butler versus the best friend.
I saw that in the notes. I love that framing. Break it down for me.
So Apple is positioning its AI, even with the Gemini integration, as the butler.
The butler.
What does a good butler do? They are discreet. They help you with tasks. They know your schedule for today.
Right.
But, and this is key, they don't know you deeply. They don't analyze your childhood trauma or track where you went on vacation 3 years ago unless you specifically show them the itinerary.
Right.
And they certainly don't gossip about you to advertisers.
Okay, so professional, detached, safe.
And then there's Google. Traditionally, Google models its AI as the best friend.
The best friend.
The best friend knows everything about you. It remembers that restaurant you liked in 2018. It knows you're trying to lose weight, so it suggests healthy recipes. It offers deep predictive understanding. But to have that best friend, your data has to leave your control. It has to live in their cloud so they can remember it.
So the trade-off is functionality versus privacy.
It's almost a trade-off between helpfulness and privacy. The butler is safe, but sometimes you have to explain things twice. The best friend gets you immediately, but they keep a permanent record of everything you've ever said.
But here's the trap door I'm seeing in the notes. It's labeled the extension trap.
Yes.
And it says to sign in or not to sign in regarding ChatGPT or Google extensions. This seems like a place where a lot of people could get burned.
This is where users need to be incredibly vigilant. If you're using Root 3, calling out to ChatGPT or Google, you have two modes. If you are signed out, you are using the Apple proxy.
Okay, Apple proxy, that masks me.
Yes, it hides your IP address. OpenAI or Google doesn't know who you are. They just see a generic request coming from Apple. And your data isn't used for training. You are protected by the Apple Shield.
But then I get that little prompt saying, sign in to access your premium features, or sign in to save this chat history.
And that is the trap. The moment you sign in to your direct account with OpenAI or Google, the protection collapses.
Collapses. That sounds dramatic.
It's accurate, though. You are no longer under Apple's privacy policy. You are under theirs. The source material is very clear. Signed in, direct account, under jurisdiction of the provider.
Wow.
Your chat history is saved. Your data can be used to train their models unless you dig into their specific settings to turn it off. You have left the Apple ecosystem and walked right into theirs.
So it's literally the difference between talking to a stranger while wearing a mask versus handing them your driver's license and unlocking your diary.
That is a perfect analogy. And users need to decide. Do you want the convenience of saved chats, or do you want the anonymity? You rarely get both.
That is actually kind of heavy. You have to actively choose your level of exposure. But let's bring this back down to earth. Let's talk about how this actually works on the screen.
Okay.
Because there is a myth we need to bust. I hear people say all the time, oh, the AI is watching my screen so it knows what button to press.
Yeah, the eye in the sky theory. The reality is much more bureaucratic.
Bureaucratic, that sounds boring.
It is, but it's safer. It's called app intents. Look at the behind the magic diagram. It's not a camera watching your pixels. It relies on developers pre-registering capabilities. Think of like a restaurant menu.
A menu.
The app developer writes a menu of things the app can do. Create note, delete note, search note. They hand that menu to Siri. When you speak, Siri acts as a translator.
So if I say, send that email I drafted, Siri isn't looking at the screen and thinking, oh, there is a blue button. It's looking for a send draft command in the menu.
Exactly. It translates your messy, ambiguous natural language into a specific API, call a specific item on the menu.
But what if the developer is lazy? What if they didn't put send draft on the menu?
Then Siri can't do it.
Yeah.
No matter how smart the brain transplant is, if the item isn't on the menu, the kitchen can't cook it.
That explains so much. That explains why some apps work beautifully and others just play dumb.
Yes,
It's not Siri. It's the developer not updating their menu.
precisely. It puts the burden on the ecosystem. And speaking of ecosystems, we have to talk about the people who are in a mixed marriage with their technology.
The iPhone users who live in Google apps.
Yes, Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Maps.
I'm one of them. I love the iPhone hardware, but I run my life on Google Workspace. How does this new Apple Intelligence play with that?
The section here on Google ecosystem integration is gold for productivity nerds. Let's start with Gmail.
Does it work?
Surprisingly well. If you set Gmail as your default mail app in iOS settings, the AI plays nice. It can draft emails, it can summarize long threads, but
There's always a but.
labels. Complex label management depends on those app intents we just talked about.
Ah.
If Google hasn't updated their menu to include Move to Project X label, Siri can't do it. You might be able to draft the email, but filing it might still be manual.
Okay, so it's halfway there. What about Calendar? I live and die by Google Calendar. If I tell Siri to schedule a meeting, it usually tries to put it in the Apple Calendar, which I never look at.
This is a tricky one. The pro tip here from the source material is do not try to manipulate the Google Calendar app directly via Siri. It's clunky. The API just isn't fully open.
So what's the workaround?
You have to use the sync function. You sync your Google account to the iOS native calendar.
Okay.
You use Siri to talk to the Apple Calendar app. Siri, schedule lunch at noon. Siri puts it in the Apple Calendar, which then syncs to the cloud, and boom, it appears in your Google Calendar app.
Ah, so use Apple as the input mechanism and let the cloud sync it over to the app I actually use.
Exactly. It's the path of least resistance. You're using the butler to update the best friend.
Now the big one, Maps. I hate it when I say take me to, and it opens Apple Maps. I want Google Maps. The traffic data is just better where I live.
The Maps barrier. By default, iOS protects its own. Commands like take me to will always launch Apple Maps. But the source material offers a workaround using shortcuts.
I love a good shortcut hack. Is it complicated?
Not really. You can create a custom shortcut that uses Google Maps URL schemes. You just set the trigger phrase to something specific like navigate using Google Maps.
So I have to say the whole phrase. Siri, navigate using Google Maps to the airport.
Yes. If you just say take me to the airport, you get Apple. If you use that trigger phrase, it bypasses the default and launches the app you actually want.
A bit of a mouthful, but worth it if you want that specific routing.
And looking ahead, the notes mention that EU regulations might eventually force iOS to allow a true default navigation app setting, just like they did with browsers. But for now, you need the shortcut.
Okay, let's shift gears to where I think this tech might actually be life-changing. The car. CarPlay.
Oh, absolutely. The notes call this the ultimate use case. This is where that contextual awareness, the foundation model, really flexes its muscles.
The scenario described here is great. Take me to the place I passed earlier.
Think about the layers of intelligence needed for that simple sentence. The AI has to understand earlier, that's time context. It has to understand place I passed, that's location history context from your GPS. And it has to map that to a navigation request.
That is wild. Usually you have to pull over, find the address in your history, copy it, and paste it.
Right. And it's safer. Then there's Smart Summary.
This is for when your group chat blows up while you're driving.
Exactly. We've all been there. Ding, ding, ding. Instead of Siri reading out 45 individual text messages and driving you insane, the AI just digests them.
So it'll say what?
It'll say something like, Steve and Sarah are arguing about where to go for dinner, but they settled on Italian.
That is a marriage saver and a sanity saver.
Truly. And it allows for better multitasking, setting reminders that trigger upon arrival.
And remind me to check the tires when I get home.
Exactly. It understands the destination and the trigger.
The notes have a safety disclaimer here, though.
Always. While safety protocols limit screen interaction, the intelligence operating within those limits increases dramatically.
Right.
Basically, you're touching the screen less, but getting way more done.
Which is exactly what we want in a car.
Yes.
So looking at this whole picture, we started with the Siri ceiling. It feels like we are looking at a completely new building.
We really are. If we summarize the evolution, we're looking at 4 pillars. First, the structural change, moving from extension to foundation.
The brain transplant that gives Siri actual awareness.
Right. Siri gets smarter, not just better at looking things up. Second, defense. The private cloud compute.
The Butler model.
Using Gemini's power, but stripping it of the ability to store or train on your data. Helpful, but discreet.
Okay, third.
Third is offense. App intense. Giving you smooth natural language control over your apps, provided the developers play ball and update their menus.
The translator.
And fourth, the essence. Moving from a search machine to a context-aware true partner.
A true partner. That sounds nice, doesn't it? But it brings us back to that final question you raised earlier.
It does.
Yeah.
We are entering an era where the technology is capable of incredible things, but it demands a choice from you.
The butler or the best friend?
Right. Apple offers the butler. Privacy, discretion, safety. Google offers the best friend. It knows you, it predicts what you want, but it keeps a permanent record of everything you've ever said.
And as these two giants integrate with Gemini running inside Apple's architecture, the line gets blurry, but ultimately you have to decide where your data lives.
You can have privacy, or you can have extreme personalization. But even in 2026, you still rarely get both at the same time.
Something to think about next time you ask Siri to set a timer. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.